Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So from this video we will be learning about Tanset building materials, construction and technology. So in this video I will be covering lime, brick, stone, clay products, timber, all the way up to lightweight concrete. Okay. So this is the first video for Tanset architecture exam. So we'll just quickly start. So the first material is lime. Okay. So lime is what? Lime is a calcium containing inorganic material. So the primary constituent of lime is calcium. So lime was originally originated from Roman period. So it was used as an adhesive or mortar. That is alternative use was mortar during that time. You all know that Roman construction techniques like opus cementatium, reticulatum, all those forms that were there, like bonding techniques like brick bond or everything. So lime was used as a mortar for that. And now today's time lime is extensively used for wastewater treatment. So primary use of lime is for wastewater treatment. Okay. So before proceeding further, we need to understand few terms which are there to study lime. First one is calcination. Calcination is a process of heating limestone. So lime is basically obtained from limestone. Limestone, that is calcium oxide, CaO. All right. So calcination is a process of heating limestone. Heating this limestone. Okay. Second term is hydraulicity. Hydraulicity. So hydraulicity stands for ability of lime to harden in damp conditions. Ability of lime to harden in damp conditions. The name itself states that hydraulicity, hydros, damp conditions. Okay, it's like the setting of concrete. So hydraulicity explains the ability of lime to harden in damp conditions. The third one is slaking. Okay, slow slaking is a process of quick lime. Process of formation of quick lime. Okay, formation of quick lime. That is done through what? That is done through hydrating. Okay, addition of water. That is addition of water. Okay, so the process that happens in the lime, what we saw, lime is made from calcium. It was derived from Roman period. The three basic terms, that is calcination, hydraulicity and slaking. Okay, limestone, the process is, the cycle is such that limestone, then we get quick lime, then there is slaked lime. Okay, lime, and from that, so limestone to quick lime is a process of heating, that is calcination. Quick lime to slaked lime is an addition of water. Okay, that is process of slaking, and slaked lime is also known as milk of lime. Okay, slaked lime is also known as milk of lime, and carbonating slaked lime we can obtain limestone. Okay, carbonating. So there are various classification of lime. So lime, as we saw above, it can be classified into burnt lime, that is burnt lime. Then we can classify it as unslaked lime, and the third classification is slaked or hydrated lime. Slake, it is also known as hydrated because it is formed by addition of water. So unslaked lime is also known as quick lime. Okay, this is calcium oxide basically. and this is hydrated, that is calcium hydroxide. So this is calcium oxide and this is calcium hydroxide. Okay. So talking about the basic constituents of lime. Okay, lime. So lime basically constitutes of clay, then there is alkalis or metal oxide, alkalis slash metal oxide, then there is sulfate, then there is pyrites and magnesium carbonate, and at last there is soluble silica. Okay, so these are the major constituents of lime. So let's see what material is has what properties. Okay, so clay is basically for hydraulicity. Hydraulicity is ability of lime to set in damp conditions, right? So alkalis basically decides the rate of hydraulicity, that is the speed at which the hydraulicity process happens is decided by alkalis. Sulfate, it reduces slaking. Pyrites is usually not preferable in a lime. Okay, so pyrite basically makes the lime weak, and magnesium carbonate is for slaking and for setting of lime. So it is basically for slaking and a slow setting. Then there is soluble silica which improves hydrolicity. Improves hydrolicity. Okay. So these are the basic constituents of lime which are there. So talking about further classification of lime, there is fat lime, hydraulic lime and poor lime. Okay. These are the market forms that are used. Okay. So there is fat lime, that is hydraulic lime, and there is poor lime. So fat lime is basically used for plastering and whitewashing. It has a very less strength. Okay, the strength is very low. It is not used for underwater construction. Not used for underwater construction. Okay. And talking about the clay content is less than 5 percentage. All right. So similarly in hydraulic lime it has greater strength. Okay, it is used for underwater construction. Then it usually takes more time to set. Okay, and clay content here is about 5 to 30 percentage. And talking about poor lime, it is not used for good construction. Not used for good construction. It is basically impure lime. It contains lot of impurities in it, and clay content is more than 30 percentage. Okay, so these are the three classifications of lime. And in Indian standards IS 712, lime is classified in 6 types. Okay, class A, class B, class C, class D, class E and class F. Okay, so this is known as eminent hydraulic lime. So this is used for structural construction, basically structural construction. Second one is semi hydraulic lime. Semi-hydraulic lime, it is used for masonry construction like mortar and everything. And there is fat lime, this is used for plastering, whitewashing. And this one is known as dolomite lime. So dolomite lime is used for inferior plastering. Inferior plastering. This class A is Concur lime. So Concur lime is inferior masonry construction. Inferior masonry construction. And this class F is known as siliceous lime, that is used just for coating purpose. So there are 6 classes: A, B, C, D, E, F. A is eminent hydraulic, used for structural. B is semi-hydraulic, used for masonry. C is fat lime for plastering. D is dolomite lime for inferior plastering. E is concur lime, inferior masonry construction, and F is siliceous lime, used for coating. So guys, this was all about lime. Okay, so you can just go through. And the second part of this is brick. So brick, I will not cover it again because I have mainly done it in my gate part. So I'll just put up the link below in the description for that video also. So we'll not waste time again for seeing brick. We'll just start from stone. All right. So talking about stone, so the stones that are used in architecture are classified in base of 3, that is chemical, physical and geographical. So first we'll see geographical classification. Okay, so geographical classification of stones is done as igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. So stones is an important topic for TNPSC exams also. So many questions that are there for the junior architect exam are basically from stones. For example, they nearly ask for 10 marks, right? So igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. So igneous is mainly obtained from molten magma. So when the molten magma solidifies, okay, we get igneous stones. And this sedimentary stone is formed by deposition of natural agents and under application of heat and pressure. Under application of heat and pressure. So sedimentary stones are formed by deposition of natural agents and application of heat and pressure. So when wind, water, all those natural agents carry out the sedimentary particles, deposit it in an area where there is an application of heat and pressure, there is a formation of sedimentary stones. Okay. So then there is the last one is metamorphic. So this happens when igneous and sedimentary rocks that are there, they undergo metamorphic actions. Okay. So that is when metamorphic rocks are obtained. So metamorphic this action means limestone can be converted into marble, right? So this basically happens due to application of heat only. Heat, pressure and many more natural factors that are there. So this was the geographical classification: igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. Then talking about physical one, physical classification, that is pointer B. Physical classification, there is stratified, unstratified, and foliated. So stratified, unstratified, and foliated, right? So stratified is layered structure planes. So stratified stones, they are basically in layers. Okay. So they can be distinguished as separate layers. So there will be many layers that are formed in the stones. So you can pick out each and you can distinguish each layer. Okay. So they are basically planes of layers. So stratified means you can distinguish the rock in layers. Unstratified means it does not have any layers. So basically it is compact. Okay, it has compact grains. The grains in the stones are very compact. And foliated stones means they have the tendency to split along any specific direction. Okay, so tendency to split around any specific direction. So this is stratified, unstratified, and foliated. So most of the foliated rocks are mostly metamorphic ones, right? So this was the geographical physical classification. The third one is the chemical classification. So chemical classifications include siliceous, that is denoted by Si. Then there is calcareous, denoted by Cal, and argillaceous. Okay, that is argil, clay, presence of clay. Okay, so siliceous, calcareous, and argillaceous. So the basic component of the stones which are siliceous is they have presence of silica. Here they have presence of calcium carbonate. Okay, and in argillaceous they have presence of clay, that is argil. Argil is basically known as clay. Okay, so there is the three classification for stones: geographical, physical, and chemical classification. So we'll just see a chart of most important stones that might be asked in the exam. Okay, so there are 14 stones in it. So I'll just write the stone's name over here, their geographical nature, their physical nature, and chemical nature, chemical composition basically. Okay, so I basically remember it as B, T, G, S, D, D, then there is G, L, triple S, G, M, Q. Okay, so there are 14 stones over here. So B stands for basalt, the T trap is G is granite. Okay, basalt trap granite. This is syenite, dolerite, dolomite, SDD. GL triple S stands for gypsum, limestone. This is shale, sandstone, slate. GL triple S, GMQ. This is known as gneiss, marble, and quartzite. Okay, so these are the 14 stones which are regularly asked in any exams. Okay, so I have just classified them. So BTG, SDD, GL triple S, GMQ. That's how I remembered. So you can do whatever you like, shortcuts to remember this. So the geographical nature is the first five stones that are there: basalt, trap, granite, syenite, and dolerite are the igneous rocks. Okay, these are the igneous rocks. These first five igneous rocks. In the same way, the second five that are there up till sandstone, these are sedimentary rocks. So first five are igneous, second five are sedimentary, and the last four are metamorphic. Okay, all right. And similarly, all the igneous rocks that are there are unstratified, which means they have composite granules. They have granular structure that are tightly composed with each other. Okay, and this all the igneous rocks are unstratified. Similarly, sedimentary and metamorphic are mostly stratified and mixture of foliated also. Okay, so the next sedimentary rocks that are there are stratified. Okay, and the in the metamorphic rocks, the first two that are there, that is slate and gneiss, these are foliated, and these two are stratified. Okay, which means they can be split into layers. So all the igneous rocks are unstratified, all the sedimentary rocks are stratified, and in metamorphic it is a mixture of foliated and stratified. So slate and gneiss are foliated, marble and quartzite are stratified. Okay, so talking about the chemical composition, all the igneous rocks are composed of silica. So they are siliceous rocks. Okay, and dolomite, gypsum, and limestone, which are there, I'll just use a different color. Dolomite, gypsum, and limestone. These three are calcareous rocks. Okay, so all the igneous are siliceous, sedimentary. These three, dolomite, gypsum, and limestone, are calcareous. Then there are so shale is composed of argillaceous. This is again siliceous. This is again argil. This is again composed of silica. Marble is mainly of calcium carbonate, so it is calcareous, and quartzite is again silica. Okay, so there is AgSi, AgSi, CalSi. So you can remember in a pattern. So first five are siliceous, next three are calcareous, then there is AgSi, AgSi, Cal, and Si. Okay. So basalt, trap, granite, syenite, dolerite, dolomite, gypsum, limestone, shale, sandstone, slate, gneiss, marble, and quartzite. So all the igneous rocks are unstratified, also in siliceous in nature. The sedimentary rocks are stratified, but dolomite, the first three are calcareous in nature. Then shale and sandstone are argil and siliceous respectively. And the metamorphic rocks are in the mixture of foliated and stratified, with argil and silica as their main components. And marble is calcareous. Okay. So I know this is a bit of hectic table to remember, but as you practice, it will be easy for you. Okay, this is an important topic. So mostly there are many questions from stones part. So I would suggest you to remember this. Okay. So we have finished from lime, brick, and stone. Clay products, we'll see that afterwards because that's not an important topic as of now. We'll just continue with timber. Okay. So timber, basically we need to remember the section of the wood, the cross sectional wood. Okay. I'm just drawing the diagram first. Okay. there are rings present over here. Okay, so talking about the section, this central part that is there, I'll just use different colors to mark so that you can remember. This central path is known as pith. Okay, so the central is known as pith. These red color lines are there now. These are known as annual rings. So using annual rings, you can determine the age of the tree, right? Okay. And then these green rays that are emerging from the pith, these are known as medullary rays. Medullary rays. Okay. So there is pith, annual rings, medullary rays. There are two more terms, that is heartwood and sapwood. So whatever the wood that is closer to the pith, okay, this is known as heartwood. Heartwood. And a little bit away from the pith, it is known as sapwood. Okay, it is the portion where sap is stored. So sap is basically used for processing food in a tree. Okay, sapwood. Next, the layer which is the last annual ring now, that portion is known as cambium layer. Cambium layer. Okay, so then there is the bark of the tree. So the outer bark and the inner bark. So there will be outer bark and inner bark where the structure of the tree will be seen. So there is pith. These are the annual rings. These rings, and the rays which emerge from the pith are medullary rays. Heartwood is closer to the pith. Sapwood is little bit away from the pith, where sap is stored, and the outermost layer is cambium layer, covered protected with inner bark and outer bark. Okay, so this section of this tree is known as tangential section. Okay, and this is a cross section. So you might have seen this diagram many a times in first year, second year, whenever you have studied BM as a subject, right? Building materials. And for timber, there is a process known as seasoning of timber, right? So seasoning of timber. So what is seasoning of timber? So seasoning of timber is basically a process to remove the moisture content from the wood. So once you cut a tree, you cannot use that wood directly for building purposes. So it contains lots of moisture, which means the wood is literally weak at that time. So it undergoes a process of seasoning where the moisture content from the tree are removed. Okay, so timber that is there, it is actually can undergo natural and artificial seasoning. Okay, natural and artificial seasoning. So natural seasoning is mainly done through air, where the logs of the wood are partially placed away from each other in a particular sections, right? Like this, and all these are voids in between the logs. So when air flows through this, there is a movement of air. It basically absorbs the moisture from these woods, and they are generally seasoned in through the flow of air. Okay, this is natural seasoning. And artificial seasoning, again there are into three types. First, they are kilned, that is basically heated. Then there is chemical use of chemical salts or ammonium carbonate or urea to basically remove the moisture. And then there is electrical seasoning, where current is passed through the wood to remove the moisture content. Okay, so this is basically timber and undergoes natural and artificial seasoning. And next, basically talking about industrial timber over here. Industrial timber. You all might be aware of this. I'm just going through quickly. So industrial timber is the forms of wood that are available in the market. So first there are veneer. So veneer is basically a single layer, the thinnest layer of the wood, right? So as veneer. Second is plywood. So when odd number of veneers are compressed together, okay, we get plywood. So remember it should be only odd, like 3, 5, 7, something like that. The thickness of plywood varies according to the number of layers. So veneer is basically a costly material. So instead of veneer, people actually prefer laminates. So since veneer is high priced, plywood is also costly. So that's why in any building process, carpentry is very expensive as compared to other works. Carpentry or civil and basically expensive, while electrical is not so much expensive. The third one is fiber boards. So fiber boards are basically composed of wood fibers. They are glued together, the wood fibers. Okay. The fourth one is impreg timbers. So impreg timbers is covered with resin. So there is basically use of resin. And there is compreg timbers. Impreg compreg. So it is also use of resin but under high pressure. Okay. Under high pressure. And the sixth one is block board and lamin board. Block slash lamin boards that are used. Okay. So these are basically all the classifications that are important. There are many other forms also available, but that will not be asked in the exam, so you need not worry. Okay, so and one more thing you guys need to remember is the type of joints in a wood, right? So this is a butt joint, and what else is there? There is this, I think it is rebated joint. This is butt joint, rebated joint, and this type of joint is mitrate joint in the corner. Mitrate joint. Like you can Google these pictures through, you will understand it better. So there are many other joints like dovetail. There is dovetail, and what else is there? A butt, rebated, mitrate, dovetail. There are many other types of joints. So if you just Google it, types of joints in wood, you will get it along with the picture, so you can understand it better. So make sure you go through the types of joints. Okay. So the next topic is paints and varnishes. And in the paints, we'll start with paints. So paint is basically a combination of pigment, resin, solvent, and additives. Okay. Pigment, resin, solvent, and additives. So what is pigment used for? Pigment is used for providing color, and to control the gloss of the paint. Okay, so that is the use of pigment. And use of resin, it acts as a binder to hold pigment together. Okay, binder to hold pigment and provide adhesion. It's basically like a mortar of a paint. It holds particles together. And then there is solvent. So solvent acts as a carrier. So it is basically a liquid that gives the watery part of a paint, right? It acts as a carrier through which the paint actually spreads in the walls or any other surface. So it acts as a carrier to pigment and resin, right? And the last additives. These additives are basically to enhance the brushing experience, enhance brushing to reduce the defects in a paint, right? It should be resistance to sag and moisture. All those things are obtained from use of additives. So paint is combination of pigment, resin, solvent and additives. Okay. And talking about the classification of paints, paints are basically classified into two types, that are water based and oil based. Okay, water based, and then there is oil based. Oil based are mostly enamel paints, right? And water based are further classified into distemper and emulsion. Distemper, emulsion, and distemper further classified into acrylic and synthetic, and emulsion basically classified into interior emulsion paints and exterior emulsion paints, right? And then there is oil based paints, that are mostly oil paints which are used where metals are mostly painted through oil to avoid rusting, right? So that is basically oil based paints. Okay, so we need not go through all those things in detail. Like, I think this much will be enough if you mainly remember this part: pigment, resin, solvent and additives. And talking about defects in a painting process, this is important. Defects. So first is blistering. So blistering is a process where bubbles are formed when painting. Okay, bubbles are formed. So when you apply, for example, you apply a tempered glass to a mobile, so basically bubbles are formed at that time. So similarly, while painting, the bubbles are formed, and that defect is known as blistering. Then there is fungus. Then there is bittiness. So bittiness is formation of dots in a paint, right? So there are many formation of dots while painting. So that is bittiness. Fourth is bleeding. So bleeding is a separation of water when we actually paint. Separation of water part in a paint. So this leads to a patchy painting surface. The painted surfaces usually gets patchy, right? Then there are brush marks, and sixth one is chalky. The paint, actually you can feel the chalky part when you rub your hands through the wall. The powders will stick to your hand, so that is chalking. And we know next is cracking. Paint usually cracks through wall, right? And the eighth one is efflorescence. So efflorescence is basically, I would say, decay of paint due to presence of salts. Okay, due to presence of salts. So mostly in damp area, efflorescence takes place. That is due to presence of salts. Okay, so paint will actually peel off the surface. It, as you, if you Google the picture, if you can understand it better. Like, mostly the, if there is a wall, there will be a huge patch with you seem, it seems like air trapped inside this patch. So if you usually touch it, it becomes a hole and the entire thing will fall off. So mostly that is efflorescence, that is due to presence of salts. Okay, so this was all about paint. Okay, and the next is concrete. I think concrete I'll cover it in the next part, because concrete is a little bit a detailed topic to go through, and already I think this video is about 40 minutes. I think you guys will get bored if you keep on listening this. So from concrete, we'll just continue in the next lecture. Okay. So thank you for watching, and suggest your friends also, those who have not given gate so good as they expected. They should surely apply for TANSET if they are not having any backup plans, or they are unless they are giving gate another year. So even if you are giving gate or not, you should apply TANSET, no? So there is nothing to lose. You should do that. Okay. So thank you so much. Stay safe.